My father-in-law gave each of his two grandsons a red envelope containing $10,000. When it was my daughter's turn, he rummaged around for a long time and then spoke.
Oh my, I didn't bring enough cash today.
I didn't say anything, just silently watched my husband try to smooth over the atmosphere, while my mother-in-law bowed her head, pretending not to hear. The next day, I silently canceled the luxury vacation trip for the whole family that I had booked long ago. When my father-in-law found out, he flew into a rage in the family chat group, scolding me for being stingy and heartless. I didn't say much, just sent the video recording of the scene from the previous night. Sorry, not enough cash today. At the New Year's Eve dinner, the crystal chandelier shone down on the red wooden round table. Every dish was exquisitely prepared by a famous chef, like a work of art. That warm and harmonious scene was what I, Laura, had looked forward to for a whole year. Or rather, used to look forward to. After a few rounds of toasts, my father-in-law, Arthur, his face flushed with excitement, took out two thick red envelopes from his shiny leather bag. He laughed loudly and handed them to the two sons of Uncle Ben.
Here, my eldest grandson, my second grandson. $10,000 for each of you. Study hard and keep improving.
The two boys, about 10 years old, screamed with joy and opened the red envelopes right there. The crisp new red bills were revealed, dazzling to the point of heartbreak. The whole family laughed uproariously. My mother-in-law praised him for being generous. My sister-in-law exclaimed, "Dad really spoils his grandsons." My daughter, Nina, only 5 years old, also looked at her grandfather with wide eyes. Her small hand gripped the hem of her shirt in nervous anticipation. When it was her turn, the smile on my father-in-law's face faded noticeably. He put his hand in his pocket and rummaged for a long time, like in slow motion. Every eye at the table was glued to his hand. Finally, he pulled his hand out with an awkward expression. It was empty.
Oh my.
He slapped his thigh, his voice not too loud nor too soft, just enough for the whole table to hear.
My mind was so focused on preparing for the two grandsons that I forgot to bring enough cash. Nina, Grandpa doesn't have enough money today. I'll make it up to you another day.
The atmosphere instantly froze. I felt my daughter's small body stiffen slightly. The look of eager anticipation in her eyes was suddenly extinguished like a candle blown out by the wind. She lowered her head, silently withdrawing the small hand she had half extended. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, painful to the point of suffocation. My husband, William, immediately stood up to ease the awkwardness, forcing a smile that I was all too familiar with and despised.
Dad, you really know how to joke. Leave Nina's red envelope to me. I'll give her double.
As he spoke, he tried to hug our daughter, intending to use a joke to erase the blatant humiliation. My mother-in-law quickly picked up some food and put it in my bowl, saying without looking up, "Laura, eat up. This Australian lobster is your favorite. I told them to prepare it specially for you." She pretended not to see anything. Everyone pretended not to see my daughter's face on the verge of tears. They all tacitly agreed with this public punishment of a little girl, using the excuse of insufficient cash, simply because she was a granddaughter. I didn't say anything, just quietly picked up my phone, pointed it at my father-in-law, and silently recorded everything. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting speckled patterns on the wooden floor. I had stayed up all night. I opened the airline app, found the booking that I had spent weeks planning and paid for out of my own pocket, a family vacation to a resort island in the Maldives. Worth hundreds of thousands, 6 days and 5 nights, a 5-star resort, a private villa for the whole family. I looked at those lines of text, remembering how when I first completed the booking, my father-in-law had called everywhere to brag about his filial daughter-in-law treating the whole family to a trip. My finger paused on the cancel booking button for exactly 3 seconds, then I pressed it firmly. The confirmation window popped up, and I pressed confirm once more. Once done, the suffocating feeling in my chest eased a little. As expected, not long after, the family chat group, the close-knit Arthur family, instantly exploded. The one starting it was my father-in-law, Arthur, who didn't bother typing but sent a 60-second voice message straight away. I turned on the speakerphone and his angry shouting echoed through the living room.
Laura, what is the meaning of this? Why cancel the trip when everything was fine? Are you crazy? I've already bragged to all the relatives and neighbors. Where am I supposed to hide my face now? Do you still consider me your father-in-law? Do you have no manners? Think your wings are hard enough to fly away, do you?
The recording ended, and the group chat fell silent as if dead. 3 seconds later, my mother-in-law quickly spoke up. Laura, your father is an elder. His temper has always been like that. Don't take it to heart. Hurry up and apologize to your father. Restore the trip. The whole family shouldn't lose their joy over a small matter. My sister-in-law, Linda, also immediately chimed in, her tone sarcastic. Oh my, our sister-in-law is a national-level planner now. Being a big boss means she doesn't bother with country folks like us, right? I just feel sorry for Mom and Dad. They looked forward to this trip so much, and now it's gone up in smoke. Uncle Ben also added his 2 cents.
That's right, sister-in-law. My 2 kids have already bought their swimming floats, asking every day when we're going to the beach. Now you say cancel, and it's canceled. How am I supposed to answer the kids?
They spoke up one after another like a well-trained army, simultaneously pointing their spears at me. Just then, a private message from my husband, William, popped up.
Honey, please don't do this anymore, I beg you. My dad is old and cares about his face. Why do you need to be so petty with him over a $10,000 red envelope? Hurry and recall the message in the group. Delete the video. I'll call Dad later to put in a good word for you. Making a fuss like this makes it awkward for everyone.
I looked at the cold words on the phone screen, then turned my head to look at my daughter sitting on the sofa playing with puzzles by herself. She was very quiet. That small face had no smile. Yesterday, when she disappointedly pulled her hand back and burrowed into my arms, she had whispered, Mommy, is it because Nina isn't a good girl that Grandpa doesn't like me? In that moment, my heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife over and over again, the pain unbearable. I picked up my phone, ignoring the group chat that was bombarding me. I opened the video recorded last night. In the video, my father-in-law with an awkward face saying he didn't have enough cash, my husband laughing stiffly to cover the embarrassment, my mother-in-law bowing her head pretending not to see. Every expression on everyone's face was cruelly clear. I pressed send. I threw the video straight into the close-knit Arthur family group. Then I leisurely typed a line of text tagging everyone. Sorry, not enough cash. After sending that sentence, I didn't bother glancing at the group chat that exploded instantly, directly turning on Do Not Disturb mode. William's calls came immediately, one after another, urgent as if chasing a debt or rushing a dying person. I looked at the word husband appearing on the screen and felt only a sarcastic bitterness. I hung up straight away and blocked him. My world finally returned to silence. I walked over to my daughter and picked her up. Nina, shall Mom take you somewhere even more fun than the island beach? Her eyes lit up for a second then dimmed again. What about Grandma and Grandpa? I kissed her forehead gently, speaking to her slowly, word by word. From now on, anywhere fun will just be us, just Mom and you. At 10 p.m., the sound of a key turning in the lock came from the door. William was back. He reeked of alcohol accompanied by anger suppressed to the point of overflowing. At that time, I was in the nursery telling a bedtime story to my daughter. Under the warm yellow light, she had started to doze off. Bang! William pushed the door open violently, growling in a low voice.
Laura, what is your intention? Why did you block me? Do you plan to tear this family apart until you're satisfied?
His face was flushed red, his eyes full of accusation and unwillingness. Our daughter was startled by him, shrinking back, her sleepiness vanishing as she looked fearfully at him. My gaze instantly turned cold. I put my index finger to my lips, signaling shh. There was no warmth left in my eyes. William froze, suppressed by the coldness in my eyes, but still unwilling to give up. His hands clenched tight, his chest heaving violently. I ignored him, continuing to use the gentlest voice to finish the end of the story for my daughter, gently patting her back until she fell asleep again. I tucked her in, kissed her forehead goodnight, then lightly walked out, closing the door. The living room was lit by only a floor lamp, the light dim. William was sitting on the sofa. Seeing me come out, he shot up.
Laura, what exactly do you want? Isn't it just a red envelope? Is it necessary to make a fuss to this extent? And recording a video to send to the group? Where do you expect my dad to hide his face? How do you expect me to survive in front of my family?
I didn't answer. I walked into the study, opened a locked drawer, and took out a thick notebook. The notebook I had started keeping from the first day of our marriage. I threw it onto the coffee table in front of William. It landed with a heavy thud. Take a look. William suspiciously picked up the notebook and opened the first page. His face gradually turned pale as he flipped through each page. On our wedding day, your family said the betrothal gift according to local custom was $66,000 for good luck. I didn't take it, and I even brought a dowry of a Mercedes worth $500,000 registered in your name, so you could save face at work. Your parents' 1,800 square foot house, they said they wanted to exchange for a bigger one so we could bring the kids over. The remaining $40,000 for the deposit was transferred by me the very next day. Uncle Ben got married. The deposit for his wedding house was $80,000. He had just graduated and had no money. Your parents came to me saying, "Laura, help your brother." I didn't say a word and paid the whole thing. Linda's child wanted to go to an international school, $200,000 a year. She said she was tight on money, and I paid for that too. I listed each item, slowly and clearly. Your parents get comprehensive high-end health checkups twice a year, $30,000 each time. The cashmere coats they wear, the jade bracelets they wear, which one wasn't bought by me? Even today's year-end dinner, the Australian lobsters and geoducks on the table were ordered by me from the import supermarket. I have spent so much for this family. What did I ask for? I asked for nothing. I only hoped the family would be harmonious, hoped they would sincerely accept me, sincerely love my daughter. I pointed at the numbers in the notebook, my voice starting to tremble. But what about them? How did they treat me? How did they treat my daughter? Your brother's 2 sons, 10,000 red envelope each. Because they are grandsons, bearing the surname Arthur, the heirs. But my daughter, your father said he didn't have enough cash. Because she is a granddaughter, because she is the grandchild born by me, Laura. Because in their eyes, I am forever just an outsider, an ATM machine that knows how to make money. William's face turned from pale to red, then from red to livid. His lips trembled, unable to utter a word for a long time. Finally, as if grabbing a life-saving straw, he shouted,
Money. I'll make up the money for her, okay? I'll give her $20,000, $30,000. Is that enough?
I laughed. That laugh echoed in the empty living room, sounding both desolate and bitter. William, even now you still think this is just a money issue? Does your daughter lack that $10,000 red envelope? She doesn't. What she lacks is fairness. Nina also deserves a share from her grandfather. What she lacks is the minimum respect that the Arthur family should have for her, treating her like a real grandchild. I stood up, walked straight up to him, looking down from above. What disgusts me the most isn't your father's bias, nor your mother's hypocrisy, but you, William. I pointed straight at his nose. All the grievance and anger suppressed for so many years exploded completely in this moment. You saw everything from beginning to end. You saw your daughter's disappointment and grievance. But what did you do? You only knew how to jump out and act like a clown, laughing it off, saying something like, "Dad is really funny." Your daughter was standing right behind you, looking at you. Did you feel every word and gesture you made? Where's your conscience? Where's your spine? William was forced back by me until he collapsed onto the sofa in a wretched state. He held his head tight, muttering painfully.
But they are my parents after all. They are elders.
Elders. Just that word is enough to make my heart go cold. I turned back to the study and took out another stack of papers. Something I had prepared for a long time but never brought out because I was soft-hearted. I threw it down in front of William. Black ink on white paper, clear and distinct. Divorce agreement. Since you are so filial, so protective of your elders. I looked at his stunned, stupefied face and spoke coldly. Then go back to your parents' side. Continue being their filial son, their good grandchild. I took a deep breath. I'm tired of supporting this family. William, let's get a divorce. Perhaps my mother-in-law heard William talk about the divorce, so early the next morning she carried a basket of imported fruit to my house. As soon as she stepped through the door, she put on an expression of extreme heartbreak, grabbed my hand, her eyes red. "Laura dear, family members don't hold grudges overnight. William told me it was his father who was wrong. He's old, his mind is confused, that sexist thinking just can't be fixed. Don't worry, I'll go back and scold him, make him apologize to you and Nina." While pretending to wipe away tears, she quickly changed her tone, revealing her true purpose. "But Laura, you two can't divorce. William is the most capable of the two brothers. His father loves him the most. If you two divorce now, how will his father survive? And you, a woman with a small child, how will you live easily in the future?" I smiled listening to her act, my heart feeling tearful yet cold. A woman with a small child won't have it easy? That's right, it really isn't easy. Having to earn money to support the whole family while working like a dog to serve this bunch of parasitic Arthurs. Indeed, not easy at all. I didn't answer, just elegantly picked up my phone, unlocked it, found Uncle Ben's number, and put it on speaker. As soon as the call connected, Ben's lazy voice rang out.
"Hello, sister-in-law, what's up?"
I saw the look on my mother-in-law's face tense up instantly, the corners of my lips curling into a cold smile. "Nothing major, just calling to notify you." My voice was very calm, but every word carried a weight that could not be refused. "From this month on, handle your mortgage payments yourself. My account isn't very flush lately." The other end of the line exploded.
"Sister-in-law, are you kidding? In the beginning, you said you'd pay for me for 5 years. It's been less than 2 years. How am I supposed to pay the mortgage every month? What if the bank forecloses on the house? Sister-in-law, you can't do this."
Ben's voice was both high-pitched and panicked. I didn't bother listening further and hung up immediately. Then I looked up straight at my mother-in-law. The smile on her face had completely stiffened. For the first time, a look of panic appeared in her sharp, calculating eyes. "Laura, what does this mean? Are you crazy? He is your younger brother. Isn't helping him pay his debts something you should do?" She trembled with anger, finally tearing off the mask of hypocrisy. "Brother?" I laughed out loud. "Mom, it seems you've forgotten. His surname is Arthur, mine is Smith. Legally, I have no obligation to raise a son for the Arthur family." I stood up, walked to the door, and took a clip of receipts down from the shoe cabinet. "Oh right, one more thing." I pulled out a receipt and held it up in front of her. "The Cartier bracelet you liked last month, price $15,000. I just called to cancel the order." I casually tossed the receipt into the trash can, looking at her face twisted with anger and shock, and slowly added a sentence. "No choice, cash is a bit short lately." You. My mother-in-law pointed at me, her whole body trembling so much she couldn't speak. She finally understood. I wasn't joking. I was no longer the soft persimmon easy to squeeze, no longer the daughter-in-law who could be bound by the word family. The basket of imported fruit she brought was thrown violently onto the ground. Strawberries and blueberries rolled all over the floor, looking no different from the ruin of the self-respect she had just lost. "Laura, you will regret this. If you leave our Arthur family, you are nothing." She screamed that sentence and then stormed off in a huff. "Regret?" I looked at the squashed fruit on the floor and felt only one word: satisfied. My biggest regret was that only today did I clearly see their true faces. Regret for using my blood, sweat, and tears over the years to feed a pack of ungrateful, bottomless, greedy wolves. Not long after, my father-in-law Arthur realized I was no longer a pushover who would be scared by his threats. He stopped making a racket in the family group like a market brawl and switched to a tactic he thought was cleverer. William came to me looking tense, his expression very grim.
"Laura, my dad seems to be asking people to make trouble for your work. He said he has old connections with the leaders of your company's competitor, wants to play until you lose your job, to let you know the price of crossing him."
At the same time, my father-in-law, who had been silent for a few days, suddenly started being active in the family chat again. He boastfully declared that the Arthur family company had always been an important partner of my company and would now withdraw all capital, terminating cooperation.
Let that brat Laura know. Without our Arthur family, she wouldn't hold that project director position for a single day. I want to see if a woman who was kicked out of the house and lost her job can still be arrogant.
The relatives in the group immediately chimed in, praising him for his capability, his vision, his corporate aura. They imagined a tragic scenario that I would soon suffer, forced into a corner, kneeling to beg for mercy. I looked at the dancing messages on my phone and found it ridiculous. A bunch of frogs in a well, sitting in the gilded cage I built for them, thinking they held the sky in their hands. It was time to show them who was holding up that sky. I sent a message to William. 8 p.m. tonight, call every member of the Arthur family you consider important, your parents, brother, sister-in-law, sister, brother-in-law, to the house. Tell them I want to settle the accounts. At 8 p.m., the Arthur family was present in full force. Father-in-law Arthur sat in the middle of the sofa, putting on a patriarch's air, his face dark as a storm. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law sat on either side. Uncle Ben and his wife stood behind. Everyone glared at me as if they wanted to eat me alive. Only William stood beside me, his face full of worry and anxiety.
Laura, you finally dared to show your face.
My father-in-law slapped the coffee table hard, the sound resonating.
Giving you one last chance. Apologize immediately in front of the whole family and restore the tour booking. Otherwise,
I didn't bother paying attention to his shouting, just calmly picked up the remote and turned on the projector. On the white wall of the living room, a document appeared clearly, shareholding structure of Sky High Technology LLC. The entire Arthur family was dumbfounded. Dad. I spoke up, my voice not loud, but every word rang clear. You always go out saying our Arthur family company, saying it so much you probably believe it's true yourself. I walked closer to the screen, using a laser pointer to point at the most prominent central position. Maybe you forgot, or rather you never cared to look. The legal representative of this company is me, Laura. I moved the laser to the name next to it. And the shareholder owning 70% of the shares is also me. I pressed the remote to project the second document, Certificate of Ownership for the Status System Core Technology. The core technical system that helped Sky High grow to a valuation of hundreds of millions over the past 3 years. The patent is in Laura's name. I looked at each face gradually going numb and continued to project the third document, Strategic Cooperation Contract between Sky High and Eternal Group. This is the company's biggest client, bringing in over 60% of annual revenue. This contract was negotiated and signed by me personally. I turned off the laser pointer, turned back to look at them, and added, the CEO of Eternal is my direct senior from university. He signed this contract out of respect for me. Finally, I looked straight at Arthur, whose face was now ashen. His lips trembled, his hand shaking as he pointed at the screen and then at me, unable to utter half a word. All of them, from beginning to end, thought this company was a mom-and-pop shop owned by William, with me just as an assistant. They lived in luxury from the dividends, assuming it was the fruit of their capable son's labor. They never knew that the company they beat their chests proudly claiming as their own was, from start to finish, my personal asset, Laura's. William's name didn't even appear on the shareholder list. I looked at the stunned Arthur family members, walked up to my father-in-law, bent down and looked straight into his cloudy eyes. I used the calmest voice to ask a question that struck straight at the heart. Dad, do you still plan to make me lose my job? Or do you want to announce withdrawing capital from my company? I paused for a second and then calmly delivered the final stab. Oh, almost forgot. Over the years, the Arthur family has invested a total of $500,000 into my company. Calculating it, the shares amount to less than 5%. The living room was deadly silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. William stared blankly at the dazzling documents on the screen, then turned to look at me. His eyes were full of shock, astonishment, and a vague look as if his worldview had just been smashed into pieces. He stood there like a stiff, soulless wooden puppet. The aged face of my father-in-law Arthur turned pale, then flushed red, then turned purple as if he had just passed through a dye shop. He gasped for air, his throat making a rattling sound like a strangled chicken.
So what?
Suddenly he leaped up from the sofa, screaming like a madman.
Even if the company is yours, you married into the Arthur family, so you belong to the Arthur family. Your money, your company, it all belongs to our Arthur family.
He still tried to struggle one last time, clinging to that perverse logic and rotten purpose to maintain the patriarchal authority that had completely collapsed.
Enough.
A loud shout cut through his screaming. Everyone was stunned because that shout came from William. It was William, who had always been weak in front of his parents, daring not to speak loudly or disobey. His eyes were bloodshot, staring at his father, his chest heaving violently.
Dad, how long do you want to deceive me? How long do you plan to deceive yourself?
He screamed and then suddenly turned to me, his voice full of trembling and brokenness.
So, that year you advised me to quit my government job, saying you wanted to support me in starting a company. Actually, all the initial capital, the core technology was yours. You just didn't say it to save face for me, so my parents would think their son was capable.
I looked at him without answering, just silently nodding as an admission. This man, the person I once loved, the father of my daughter. I used to think he was just indecisive, but only now did I realize he was no different from an overgrown child living in a pipe dream woven by his parents using my money. My silence was the final drop that made the cup overflow. William clutched his head, his tall body slowly sinking down, his shoulders shaking violently.
What am I? What exactly am I?
He hissed like a wounded animal.
I am a useless man, someone who knows nothing but calmly enjoys everything, acting arrogant while leaning on his wife. A useless piece of trash.
He suddenly raised his head, his bloodshot eyes glaring at his parents.
Why? Why did you treat her like that? Why did you have to deceive me like that? She sacrificed so much for this family, don't you see? Just because she gave birth to a daughter, just because she is more capable than me, you hurt her to protect your ridiculous self-esteem?
This was the first time in his life William stood on my side, daring to confront his parents directly. His voice rang out clearly, every word striking his father's heart. Arthur, countered by his own filial son, stood frozen like a statue. Perhaps he never expected the son he was always proud of would use that tone to speak to him. The shock passed, leaving only anger rolling like a tsunami.
You unfilial son.
He pointed at William, his whole body shaking with rage, his face purple as pig liver.
I.
He clutched his chest, unable to finish his sentence, his eyes rolled back, and he fell backward unconscious. Grandpa.
Dad.
The living room instantly fell into chaos like a tragic comedy. The sound of my mother-in-law wailing, my sister-in-law screaming, Uncle Ben frantically calling an ambulance. It all blended into a chaotic and ironic symphony. As for me, I just stood coldly watching it all. I watched William clutching his head screaming in pain. I watched my father-in-law collapsed on the floor unconscious. His awakening came too late. And the price for that awakening was the last shred of affection between him and me, the trampled trust of my daughter. It was too late. Everything was too late. The emergency room corridor was brightly lit, smelling strongly of antiseptic, cold, and uncomfortable. My father-in-law was diagnosed with acute myocardial infarction. Fortunately, he was treated in time and was temporarily out of danger, moved to the special intensive care unit. Outside in the corridor, my mother-in-law sat slumped on the floor, beginning the familiar performance she was best at, beating her thighs and wailing miserably. Why is my life so miserable? Married a jinx into the family, she wants to kill my husband. Oh heavens, what sin did our Arthur family commit to meet this disaster? My sister-in-law Linda acted like a crazy lioness rushing towards me, raising a finger painted bright red pointing straight at my face and screaming, "Laura, you vicious woman. Murderer. If anything happens to my father, I will make you pay with your life." She even intended to lunge at me to claw me. Luckily, William stopped her in time.
Sister, calm down. What does Dad's illness have to do with Laura?
Not related? It was her. Linda screamed. She brought out those weird documents to provoke Dad. She wants to steal our family's company. William, wake up. This kind of woman has no sincerity at all. I stood there expressionless, quietly watching them perform a cheap family tragedy right in front of my eyes. I didn't refute or get angry. I just walked to the cashier counter and took out a bank card. Hello, I'm paying the deposit for patient Arthur, bed number 101. The nurse checked the information and said, the patient's condition is relatively critical. Advance deposit 200,000. More may be incurred later. I swiped the card without blinking. A crisp beep sound rang out. The POS machine printed a long receipt. I signed my name, turned around, and handed the receipt to the nurse. Please choose the best medicine. Hire the best caregiver for 24-hour care. Charge all expenses to my account. My voice was calm, but the whole corridor instantly fell silent. My mother-in-law stopped crying. My sister-in-law also froze, retracting all her ferocity. They looked at me with disbelief. I walked up to them, my gaze sweeping over each person. The hospital fees I paid fulfill my final obligation as a daughter-in-law. I paused, my voice suddenly turning cold. But do you want to take my company? Keep dreaming. My mother-in-law reacted like a cat having its tail stepped on, jumping up instantly. What do you mean your company? That belongs to the Arthur family. You harmed your father like that, you must compensate. Hand the company over to William. Right? Hand it over. My sister-in-law also chimed in. That is the debt you must pay to the Arthur family. William finally couldn't take it anymore. He stood in front of me, strictly confronting his mother and sister for the first time in his life.
Mom, sister, speak with some reason. That company was Laura's from start to finish. Our family doesn't have a penny in it. Dad got sick because he agitated himself. Why blame it on her?
You. My mother-in-law pointed at William, trembling with anger. Have you also been bewitched by that vixen? Because of her, you don't even need your biological parents anymore? My sister-in-law and William started arguing fiercely. The atmosphere was incredibly ugly. I frowned in disgust, pulling William's hand. I looked at those faces distorted by greed and hatred, those relatives who only knew how to suck others' blood, and coldly declared word by word. I have signed the divorce papers. They are on the table in the study. I spoke to William, but my eyes looked straight past him, where his family was standing. William, if you still want to continue living with me and our daughter, then deal with your family properly. My final boundary, from today on, our small family and them must completely cut ties financially and in life. I emphasized every word. If you can't do it, we have nothing left to say. See you in court. Father-in-law Arthur's health wasn't actually that bad. After 3 days in the ICU, he was moved to a regular ward, nothing serious, mainly because extreme agitation combined with high blood pressure led to the acute myocardial infarction. On the day of his discharge, William drove to pick him up, while I stayed home preparing for the final negotiation. The living room once again gathered the full Arthur family. But this time the atmosphere was completely different. Arthur sat on the sofa, his face still pale, his eyes evasive, no longer having a trace of the arrogant aura from before. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law also sat timidly in a corner, not daring to utter an extra word. Because beside me was a man in a neat suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, looking serious. He was my company's personal lawyer, Attorney Zhang.
Mr. Arthur, Mrs. Arthur.
Attorney Zhang pushed up his glasses, his voice calm but clear.
Today I am representing CEO Laura to invite you here to resolve some outstanding issues regarding Sky-High Technology.
He placed a document on the table in front of Arthur.
This is a share repurchase agreement. CEO Laura has decided to purchase back the entire 4.8% share that Mr. Arthur initially invested at a price 3 times the current market value, which is $1,500,000. This is a cashier's check for $1,500,000. As long as you sign, the money is yours. From that moment on, all activities of Sky-High will no longer be related to you and the Arthur family.
Arthur looked at the check, his eyes gleaming with greed, but immediately overwhelmed by unwillingness. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to haggle for more.
Dad.
William suddenly spoke up, his voice not loud but colder and more decisive than ever.
Sign it. This is Laura's final concession out of respect for me. If you don't sign, we'll meet in court, and then don't expect to get a single penny.
Arthur shook all over, looking in disbelief at the son he was always proud of. Perhaps he couldn't have imagined his final trump card, that very son, would turn his back on him so decisively. Uncle Ben and his wife standing next to them panicked and started screaming.
You think 1.5 million can get rid of us? Keep dreaming. The company has my brother's share anyway. He is the husband. It's marital property, understand?
Attorney Zhang laughed coldly and pulled out another document.
Mr. Ben, before marriage, Mr. William and CEO Laura signed a prenuptial agreement. It clearly states that all premarital assets and income are personal property. The entire founding capital of Sky High was CEO Laura's personal premarital savings, with clear bank statements. Furthermore,
He glanced at Ben.
CEO Laura has also decided to officially terminate your nominal logistics consultant position at the company and simultaneously stop the monthly consultant fee of $15,000. If you have any objections, we can also discuss whether the nearly $500,000 you have received over the past few years could be considered illegal misappropriation of company assets.
Ben's face turned pale instantly. He and his wife started throwing a tantrum, screaming loudly, saying we were bullying people with money and power. But losing their source of livelihood, their crying sounded no different from a cheap farce. Finally, under William's insistence and the legal pressure from Attorney Zhang, Arthur trembling held the pen and signed the share repurchase agreement. Ben, looking like he was at a funeral, signed the termination decision. They took the 1.5 million check and left quietly. I knew, from that moment, the relationship between me and that parasitic family was finally completely severed. Only William and I remained in the living room. He looked at the divorce paper I had already signed on the table, his eyes full of conflict. I walked up to him, calmly picked up that paper, and tore it in half. Don't misunderstand. I looked straight into his eyes and spoke coolly. I'm doing this not because I forgive you, but to temporarily keep you in the position on probation. The next day, in the company-wide meeting, I made a decision that surprised everyone. I revoked William's nominal vice president title and appointed him as sales director, a position with real power that requires starting from scratch and proving ability through results. Everyone was surprised, and so was William. After the meeting, in my office, he hesitated for a long time before speaking.
Why me?
I lifted my coffee cup for a sip and spoke slowly. Because I want you to understand that I shouldn't be the only one carrying this family. From now on, I need you standing next to me, not always hiding behind me, letting me shield you from the wind and rain. William, prove it, show me, and show yourself that you are not a useless person. William looked at me silently for a long time. In his eyes, there was guilt, gratitude, but mostly a newly lit fire, steadfast and determined. He nodded firmly.
Laura, rest assured, I will definitely do it.
Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. In that half year, William seemed to turn into a completely different person. He was no longer the husband who came home from work to lie on the sofa buried in his phone. He started getting up early and coming home late, diligently chasing clients, looking for partnership opportunities. He turned the sales department under his charge into a high-performing unit, exceeding sales targets for 3 consecutive months, silencing the employees who used to whisper behind his back that he lived off his wife. After work, he actively played with our daughter, telling her bedtime stories. On weekends, he discussed company development strategies with me, even proposing many practical ideas. Our conversations no longer revolved only around daily necessities and petty family matters. He truly became a husband, a father, and most importantly, a companion who could fight by my side. As for my in-laws, after taking the money, they went completely silent. Occasionally my mother-in-law called, her tone polite and reserved, simply asking gently, "When do you two have time to bring Nina back to visit?" William always tactfully refused, saying he was busy with work. Not demeaning himself, nor being cold. He said, "I need time, Mom and Dad also need time. Time to understand what respect means." The Lunar New Year came again. This time we didn't go back to the old house that used to make me suffocate. William actively suggested.
This Tet, let's stay at our home, just the 3 of us, a real Tet for our family.
On New Year's Eve, outside the window was the sporadic sound of firecrackers. Inside the TV was the colorful spring program. The 3 of us gathered around the dining table wrapping dumplings. Nina's small face was covered in white flour like a stuffed cat, laughing incessantly. The warm light enveloped the three of us. I felt an emotion I had never felt before: peace, relief, and true warmth. At the moment the bell struck 12, William took out a thick red envelope, solemnly handing it to our daughter with both hands.
Nina, this is lucky money from Daddy. Wishing Daddy's little princess a happy, healthy new year, and may the world always treat you gently.
Nina happily accepted it and immediately tore open the red envelope with glee. Inside was not cash, just a bank card and a small piece of paper. Nina couldn't read yet, so she handed the paper to me. On it was William's familiar, strong handwriting.
My darling, in this card is all the bonuses and commissions Dad earned over the past half year. Before, Dad wasn't good, causing Mom and you to suffer a lot. From now on, Dad will put all his effort into loving Mom and you.
I turned the card over and saw 6 numbers written in marker, the birth dates of myself and my daughter. At that moment, my eyes turned red. Although Nina didn't fully understand the meaning of the gift, she felt the love from her father. She hugged William's neck tightly and planted a kiss on his cheek. "Thank you, Daddy. You are the best daddy in the world." William held his child in his arms, looking gently at me. A sparkling light also shone in those eyes. I looked at the father and daughter hugging tightly, my heart overflowing with emotion. The respect and love I had been waiting for, although late, had finally arrived. Perhaps it wasn't entirely too late. On the second day of Tet, I was playing puzzles with my daughter when William's phone rang. It was a video call. The caller name showed Dad. William looked at me with slight hesitation. I nodded slightly, signaling him to take the call. The screen showed the face of father-in-law Arthur. Only having not seen him for half a year, he looked as if he had aged 10 years. His hair was more than half gray, his spirit weary. In the deep wrinkles on his face were fatigue and loneliness that couldn't be hidden. On the other end, my mother-in-law also sat nervously nearby, her eyes sneaking glances at the camera. My father-in-law saw his granddaughter on the screen, opened his mouth to say something, but his expression was very awkward. Finally, as if gathering all his courage, he spoke a dry sentence.
Nina, last year Grandpa was wrong. Grandpa apologizes to you.
Having said that, he immediately took out a prepared red envelope from behind his back and held it up to the screen.
This is the lucky money to make up for Nina. Please accept it for Grandpa.
His movements were stiff, his voice forced, but the apology was sincere. William was about to say something, but I signaled him with my eyes to stop. I squatted down, held the phone in front of my daughter, and spoke gently. "Nina, Grandpa apologized to you and even prepared a red envelope for you. Do you want to say anything to Grandpa?" She looked at her grandfather on the screen, her big round eyes blinking. She didn't show fear or avoidance as I had thought. On the contrary, she smiled brightly, her voice clear. "Thank you, Grandpa. I accept your sentiment. But Mommy and Daddy love me very much already. I'm warm enough. You saved that red envelope to buy good food, Grandpa." Childish words, simple but sharp as a knife. Grandpa's face instantly turned red, his hand holding the envelope midair froze. I calmly took the phone back, facing him, and spoke calmly. "Dad, we don't lack money, we never have. What we hope for is that you can see Nina as a granddaughter, give her fair love and respect, without reduction, without conditions. Just that is enough." The other end of the line was silent for a long time. Long enough that I thought he had hung up. Finally, he slowly nodded, his eyes glancing complicatedly at my family, then silently ended the call. I knew that deeply rooted ideas like preferring sons over daughters couldn't be changed immediately with an apology. Perhaps that was the biggest step back he could make. But for me, that change wasn't too important anymore. What was more important was that the man beside me had learned to stand on the same side as me and my daughter. I had a complete, warm, and love-filled home. That was enough. When the warm spring returned, I rebooked the beach trip I had canceled last year. It was the same 5-star resort, the same luxury villa, but this time the list only had 3 names: me, William, and our daughter. Before the departure day, William asked me with a bit of hesitation,
"Are we really not bringing my parents along?"
I looked at him and answered seriously, Our first family trip is only for this family. I pointed at him, at our daughter, and then at myself. William understood immediately. He nodded firmly, the corners of his eyes slightly wet.
I understand.
Golden sunshine, blue sea, white sand, and clear sky in the Maldives were as beautiful as a perfect dream. My daughter, wearing a cute floral dress, ran around like a little butterfly on the beach, chasing the waves and laughing giggly. The sunset on the distant sea dyed the whole sky a brilliant orange. William gently hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. The salty sea breeze blew my long hair, bringing a strangely gentle warmth.
Honey, I'm sorry. Thank you for not giving up on me, not giving up on this family.
He whispered in my ear in a voice only the two of us could hear. I said nothing, just silently enjoying the peace belonging to this moment. William took out a small velvet box from his pocket, opening it in front of me. Inside was a custom-designed ring, not a famous brand, but looking at it one could tell it was made with great care. For the past half-year, he had asked a friend who was an independent designer to make it specially. He took the ring out, showing it to me.
Look, here are 3 interlaced letters, LWN, initials of our 3 names connected to form the shape of a roof. Laura, are you willing to marry me again?
He held my hand, kneeling on one knee on the sand, looking up at me. His eyes held a sincerity and reverence I had never seen before. I looked into his clear, earnest eyes, then looked into the distance where my daughter was running amidst the brilliant afternoon light. All the grievances and hurts in my heart silently vanished like the wind in this moment. I didn't answer immediately, just blinked mischievously, smiling and asking, "Are you sure? Is there enough cash this time?" William was stunned for a moment, then both of us burst out laughing. He laughed while tearing up.
Enough. Everything I have is enough for you and our daughter. Even this life belongs to you.
I smiled and extended my hand for him to put the ring symbolizing a new beginning on my finger. In the distance, my daughter was running towards us, her face radiant as the sunset behind her back. Our happiness was truly just beginning. After returning from the trip, the company's structure underwent a major adjustment. At the board meeting, I officially nominated William to assume the position of CEO of Sky High, fully in charge of operations and development strategy. No one objected because everyone had seen his efforts over the past half-year and his true ability proven by excellent performance reports. He was no longer the Vice President William, holding a title just to be shielded by me, but General Manager William, someone who could independently shoulder a battlefront. As for me, I stepped back to hold the position of chairwoman of the board, only concerning myself with overall strategy. I told William, "Honey, I'm tired. I want to be the one letting go. I want more time to be with our daughter, develop personal hobbies, do things I used to want to do but never had time for." William held my hand tightly, his eyes steadfast.
It should have been like this long ago. In the past, you carried both the family and the company. Now it's my turn to shield the sky for you.
My life truly slowed down. I signed up for pottery and flower arranging classes that I had cherished for a long time. In the scent of earth and flowers, I found the peace and simple joy forgotten for so long. I had more time to attend every parent-teacher meeting, every extracurricular activity of my daughter. I watched her confidently perform on stage, diligently run on the sports track, my heart filled with an unprecedented satisfaction. Her personality also changed, becoming livelier, happier, brighter every day. Because she knew she had a strong and gentle mother, and a father who finally learned how to love and protect her properly. I no longer needed to use silent sacrifice and infinite endurance to trade for a fake family harmony. I used my own wisdom and ability to reclaim true respect and genuine happiness for myself and my daughter. And at this moment, I truly understood. The greatest strength of a woman is not trampling on those who hurt you, but having enough courage to rebuild a new world of your own on the ruins full of sunshine and hope. A few years later, in an open class in my daughter's 3rd grade, the teacher asked the students to stand up and share, "Who is the person you admire the most?" The children in the class, some said scientists, some said astronauts, some said their fathers. When it was Nina's turn, she wore a white dress, hair tied high, stepping out to stand in the middle of the class with confidence and brightness. The person I admire most is my mother. The whole class of parents instantly fell silent, eyes simultaneously looking towards me. I was momentarily stunned, my heart trembling slightly. Sitting next to me, William gently squeezed my hand, his warm palm full of trust. My daughter's clear voice rang out in the quiet classroom. Because my mom once told me, never let other people's words decide your own value. Who we are, our value is not decided by anyone else. Her eyes shone brightly looking towards me, full of admiration and pride. My mom also taught me one thing. Sometimes just one sentence from yourself is worth more than 10,000 sentences from others. That sentence was like a small stone falling, creating ripples in my heart. I remembered that cold New Year's Eve many years ago. The night I, hands trembling but resolute, typed into the family chat group the words, "Sorry, not enough cash." That sentence was my declaration of resistance, the wake-up bell, the turning point that changed everything. I turned around, seeing the corners of William's eyes glistening with tears under the afternoon sun. He leaned over and whispered in my ear in a voice only enough for two to hear.
Honey, you are the pride of my life and our child's life.
I held his hand, feeling strangely at peace. Outside the window, the gentle spring sun covered my daughter's radiant face and also shone upon the new world full of warmth and respect that we built with our own hands, from wounds, from resistance, and from love that was never fully let go.